Well, hello there and good evening. Thank you for joining me. I am Frost PDP, and today we're talking about Crusader Kings 2. And in particular, we're talking about the Diary 11, Stopping the Snowball, posted by Groggy. So we got some music in the background. I hope it is recording. It seems to be. And we're gonna probably periodically swap windows just to put more music on because I like music and it helps me think. So I got home from work, recorded a whole video about this topic, and then it fell apart. But let's talk about aggressive expansion, or rather infamy. So those of you who have played Europa Universalis 4 are kind of familiar with the AE mechanics, aggressive expansion, in that when you take over land, your neighbors get kind of worried about you, and if you take over enough land, you form a coalition. It's based on the Napoleonic Wars and how Napoleon took land, so his neighbors got together and fought against. Kind of that, right? I mean, there are other coalitions in history, but that's really the famous one, the anti-Napoleon one. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take a look at what they're doing. So they're pissed off about, well, I don't want to say they're pissed off, but Paradox is concerned about snowballing. In other words, they're saying the game is too easy for people to just power out of control. And what they are saying is that you need to make it so that neighbors of powerful countries recognize a threat and act on it. So far, so good. The question is always going to be in how. Their answer is this. They're adding coalitions, which is networks of alliances that work in defense against a certain power. We'll look at a specific example later. They're saying infamy, which is the mechanic here, is limited to the range of 0 to 100% and will slowly decay over time based on how strong your max military potential is. Well, that right there is vague. I'm assuming that means your maximum levy, but I'm not sure. When you hit 25% infamy, coalitions will be unlocked. In other words, players can't just form coalitions for fun. You have to be forming it against someone with at least 25% infamy. And AIs will start joining them based on how threatened they feel. Kind of vague. Your infamy serves as a hint of how aggressive and dangerous other rulers think your realm is. Well, not really. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be based on a static number, but anyway. You gain infamy primarily, so not necessarily exclusively, by conquering land through war or by inheriting a fair maiden's huge tract. So basically, expansion by marriage is now limited. I guess that's so you can't marry somebody, have a kid, and murder them? I don't know. The amount of infamy you gain is based on the action you do, how much land you take, and how large your realm already is. So for instance, the Kaiser of the HRE declaring for Flanders, which I'm assuming a duchy, and taking it is going to make the neighbors more worried than if Pomerania manages to take Mecklenburg, which I'm assuming is a duchy taking a county. Okay, let's sit on that for a moment, think about it. The numbers are vague. Inheriting is just a bad idea, throw that out. Hi Paradox, I'm talking to you by the way. Make this 30, 35% or even 40, just because coalitions I fear could be expansive, and we'll get into why in a minute. Coalitions themselves are mostly defensive in Crusader Kings. So if any member gets attacked, the target of the if you get attacked by the target of the coalition, they will automatically be called into war. Time to scroll down a bit and see a map. So these are the Seljuks, I think that's how you say it. Maybe it's Seljuks, I don't know. And they are, well, they have a lot of enemies. Somehow or another, the Seljuks have gotten the Fatimids, Atef, Kharkinids, Georgia, and others mad at them. Ghazanavids, I mean, they're out in India almost. They're all coalitioned. This is a new map mode they're going to have. Red is coalitioned, yellow is you. Well, one thing I can think of, and we'll get into this a little later, is change the color to blue and change your allies to green. But anyway, let's see why they're mad. Because I think these two, I can't say for certain these screenshots are connected, but let's pretend they are. He took over Armenia. Now, my geography isn't the greatest in the world, but Armenia, if I'm not mistaken, is over in this neighborhood, right? Okay. So the Seljuks took the Kingdom of Armenia. It's an invasion CB, and it got them 42.9%. Keep that number in mind. 42.9%. If they're taking a land that I'm assuming, again, I could be wrong, is bordering the Byzantine Empire, shouldn't the Byzantines be mad? And how do the Ghazanavids know about it? Because it's tied to your character up here. It's a new button sort of thing. Because your infamy is tied to your character. Anyone who knows your character knows your infamy. That seems a little odd because this is far away to be concerned about land being taken here. I know that's sort of a problem with EU4's mechanics, and that, like, oh, you take, and this happens in any Ottoman game, you take land over here, the Ottomans take land here, nobody over here cares. They take land here, nobody over here cares, and it ends up not being a coalitionable thing. This seems to go the other direction. But yeah, if any one of these gets attacked by the Seljuks, there's a war. But this little guy doesn't seem to care, nor does this guy. Why? Can you declare up here and invade the coalition? So I feel like coalitions are going to either completely restrict movement or not do a job at all, but we'll get into that in a minute. If a member starts a war against the target, they can only get a normal call to arms, which they can choose to decline. So in other words, if the Carcanids attack, everyone else gets an option to join, but they don't have to. Kind of weird, especially if I'm declaring for my own kingdoms, but sure, whatever. For an AI to join a coalition, they will consider the relative strength between the target and themselves, how threatened they think they are. How do you determine that? And how much infamy has been accrued. Alright. Might not be the easiest way to view it, so we added the map mode. Okay. A question gets asked by Oakoa. Good question. Two questions, actually. One, does infamy apply to your ruler? As in, if you take a crusade and then die, do you get 0 infamy again? Also, do your vassals go conquering outside of the realm and earn you AE from that? Well, I'm trying to stick with CKII songs because since I'm talking about CKII, I hopefully won't get blacklisted by YouTube. The answer Grugi gives is 1. If your vassal outside the realm conquers stuff, you get 50% of what he generates, and it propagates upward. So a duke or count conquers something, the duke gets 50%. Okay, so the count of a duke conquers something. The duke gets half, the king gets 25, and the emperor gets 12. Okay, but if a kingdom claim is worth 42.9, that's almost 50, so we'll call it 50. So let's say a duke conquers something and gets 50%. Let's say a count conquers a kingdom. Count somehow conquers a kingdom. He gets 50%. The duke would get half of that, which is 25. You get 12.5. So the emperor gets 6.25% infamy on a kingdom won by a count, right? And infamy stays over generations. You can't be a dick and then die. So it's really a nerf to snowballing, which is not a bad thing. And the problem is this. What if you have aggressive vassals? Your vassal himself might not have any infamy, so he might feel just fine and dandy declaring his own wars and conquering his own lands. But when it comes time, you, the emperor, start getting penalized for it. You start getting 3%, 5% upstream. That adds up. That makes you, the emperor, unable to declare your own wars and expand your own personal territory while your vassals get stronger. That leads to realms breaking up, which might be a good thing. It might be what they want. But I don't know if I agree that it's a good thing. I don't know if I want to play that game. This is a slow rate of decay. I don't know if diplomacy affects that or not. I think if you're going to add coalitions, you need to improve the claim system. I've always been an advocate of somehow comparing the state diplomacy score of the person you're fabricating against versus the state diplomacy of someone trying to fabricate. So let's say this guy's trying to fabricate against someone with a 50 state diplomacy. I know that's high. So he's got a 43. Roll a 1d100 plus 4.3. Plus 4 versus 1d100 plus 4.5. Whoever has the higher roll advances by a tenth of that. You have a little bar. It could be a little icon with a little hand reaching for some papers. And throughout this, as time goes on, you either fabricate the claim all the way, you can do better, you can do worse. A botch could lead, a perfect 100 by the defender, you catch the thing. A perfect 0 by the attacker, you catch the thing. You start off at maybe like 15-20% based on culture and religion and this and that. And all in all, if you get down to 0, you get caught. And there should be a big penalty for getting caught, like a huge infamy increase, or like, whatever, it triggers a coalition against you, something. Big penalty, fine, cool with it, but, and this is the important thing, and this is the but, that would make it more consistent, because anyone who's seen my Charlemagne game knows that just getting a single county claim kind of doesn't happen. My first game, it took me a long time to get anything but my first claim. First claim kind of came cheap. If you watch the multiplayer with Arumba, Shenrer, Solar Gamer, and Stejo, Arumba spent 3 weeks worth of gameplay. Like, we're talking 2 hours a day. So 6 hours not getting one claim. That is not fun. That is boring. Sitting around waiting isn't any more fun. But here's one way we can fix this. Make Infamy less tied just to expansion and more towards decisions you make. This is a game about morality. You have virtues and you have none here, but you have vices. Tie less things to that, and tie things like if you're a Byzantine and you castrate someone. Don't necessarily make it cost piety, make it cost infamy. Make individual enemies less likely to attack you and more likely to band together to attack you. So yeah, this guy's really scary. He castrated someone. Our faction goes down. But make factions able to negotiate with coalitions. A faction that fires can trigger a coalition. So let's say the Seljuks have an Armenian faction. Again, I don't know if this is Armenia. The Seljuks have a faction, Independence for Armenia. It gets high enough to trigger. It sends out an offensive call to the coalition. Do you want to join? The coalition can join in and help break Armenia free. All of a sudden, you have diplomacy that functions just as well, if not better, than EU4's in this aspect. And speaking of EU4 diplomacy, one thing, if you're going to have aggressive expansion in this game, which is what Infamy is at this stage, and I'm talking like, if you can make decisions, character decisions, just boost or lower Infamy by a little bit. All those random pop-ups, make more of them, make them more relevant. It makes you have things to do in peacetime. You know, do you threaten your vassal? +1 infamy. Do you negotiate with your vassal? -1 infamy, but maybe he'll say no. Or maybe you have to pay or something. You know, make it a lever that you can pull. If you're going to have aggressive expansion for conquering Armenia, you need to be able to pick how much of Armenia you want to conquer, negotiate for it, and find ways to reduce it. So, claims, again, maybe there's a way you can only get a weak claim instead of a strong claim. When you declare war, maybe you can negotiate for how much you take. Maybe you have a claim on 6 things, but you only want 3. You give up the other 3 claims. You cut your aggressive expansion by a third. I don't know. Some way to leverage it better, because just applying infamy as a cap, and it caps at 100. It's not like you can go above 100. If 100% still isn't enough to scare all of these little guys into banding together, it's no fun, because they're not going to do it. And if it causes people up here and out here to band together, it's not fun, because you're getting attacked by everyone in the world. That's not really, I mean, it's kind of fun, but it's not really fun. It's not really playing the way the game is sort of designed. It's not a role-playing experience. It's just min-maxing. What percentage can I afford before I get coalitioned? I'll sit and wait for my monthly decay of about 1%, you know, 0.1% per year. And if you're going to inherit infamy on top of something maybe you did as the heir, as the vassal, like, if you're inheriting, I feel like there's going to be so much more aggressive expansion coming in than going out that it's going to be automatic coalitions against everyone, which isn't fun. Last point. I kind of hinted at it. If the Seljuks are getting very big and they've got all these coalition people, why isn't the Byzantine Empire involved? Is it because of relative strength? The Byzantines think they'll be okay on their own? Wouldn't the Byzantines see an opportunity to get one over on a Muslim neighboring rival? I'm sure these leaders have personal enmities against one another. Shouldn't the Byzantines be ready to go to war and be like happy to join the coalition? Because if the Seljuks attack them, they have allies automatically. And if they attack, they're leading the coalition. And maybe the only kind of coalition war would be a punitive one, which forces independence, which is kind of what I talked about with the faction alliancing. But if I were the Byzantines, I would join the coalition and then declare war for something I have a claim on. In fact, I would declare all of my claims at once. Use these guys to beat these guys. They're all exhausted. And then I can turn around and declare this, and declare all my claims at once. And guess what? My enemies are already tired. And I'm not. And I have all this fresh new land that they can siege up all they want. It doesn't matter. but I also have enemies that I can take their main provinces from and cripple them. So these are my thoughts. It's a Frost Thoughts. I hope you enjoyed. I was hoping to record more. I was hoping to record some CK2, but I have some work I have to get done and I have things to do, so maybe I'll put a video up besides this today. Maybe I won't. If I don't, unfortunately, Tuesdays are my good days. The good news is when this goes live, if it goes live on Tuesday like WoW patches do, I'll probably be able to stream it. The bad news is I don't know when the next time I'm going to get a chance to play. So hopefully I get some gaming in this week. I'm also going to try to play Tribes. I mean, when Tribes Ascend has its new patch come out, I'm going to play that, Surprise Blue Plate, or whatever it's called. But until then, until next time, thank you for joining me, and as always, La Paz.